notification says to me, pop off, and my human brain has learned to listen to that. And it's New Zealand television doing it. And my brain has gotten so used to it because it's actually a normal communication of me, and someone see when I'm gonna react under that in the universeness of our rooms in New Zealand television with that Independence Day for them. I clearly speaking that over my human communication, and it becomes my walk, my talk, my attitude. So I'm not gonna say anything to New Zealand television at this stage of how angry I already am with them and how they've already oppressed my universe womb communications. But we're gonna just focus on what do I want to say. I've made a lovely bread pudding, right? And I want there is someone swipes again from New Zealand television to me, and they again sound shitty. So they've got a lot happening here in Auckland, New Zealand, and we have to report these things because we live in a world that made a bread pudding already, where if you do not report what is happening in certain countries, and we get young children that travel to certain countries and they think that everything is now looking glossy, and New Zealand presents and represents international rugby. And a lot of women has already been kidnapped in New Zealand itself. And New Zealand tend to think that they can allure women to New Zealand and then they can kill the way that they want to. I'm gonna again discuss where the world finds them at with women kidnapping in the things that is happening in Auckland, New Zealand, right? And where women in the world find themselves so abused at. I'm going to again discuss that matter that I have really evaluated in this country, and it's really happening. And in New Zealand, it's really an international office, and people are really dependent on the international office of New Zealand. When the international office gets the information wrong, then the world finds themselves so much disrupted and in so much poverty. And that's where we are at with what we want to say today, with the things that are happening in Auckland, New Zealand's television rooms. They have had a lot of people dismissed, but it's not the television teams. It comes from Parliament. International world is the New Zealand is the very first Monday in the international world of office, in the international world of business, the very first day that comes forth. So every process that derives from New Zealand of office are being implemented in the international world, right? It's one of the most important communication countries that world. And if New Zealand gets it so wrong, and I can get so angry, and I'm normally not an angry person, and then really there's a lot that the world has got to do to make sure that the country are managed in a fine way, and that the world don't only depend on what the world explains as a United Nations office, right? What the world explains as an American White House office, what the world explains as a Chinese country's computerized communications, then the world clearly logically listen to what is happening in New Zealand, where is it affecting the international world, and what is the international world's responsibility to deal with a country like New Zealand, where there's a lot coming from that can be disruptive and oppressive to the international world. We look at a country where everything looks glossy, everything looks perfect. People say in their houses it looks like the most calmest of countries, but the oppressions that happens behind the scenes is what is visible in the international world, and that's where we are at. I made a lovely bread pudding. What does bread pudding do in the human tummy, right? And that's what I want to share today. Bread pudding is lovely. I've made it before. Today I've made it with lovely bananas on top, and with lovely bananas that we're gonna have with that I've mixed in the bread pudding mix. And we're going to share quickly a photo angle on this bread pudding that we have made. So that's where we're at with our bread pudding, right? So we're not going to top it now with banana. We're going to top it exactly before we are serving this. I love everything about bread pudding. It tastes lovely. It tastes nice. And I don't want the banana in it now. I want the banana in it exactly before we serve this. And we're going to share that recipe today. We're concluding the Sunday with lovely sweet pumpkin, with lovely butter, with lovely sugar, with a pinch of salt, right? What I'm also sharing on today is we've already started, and that is our silver side beef that we're gonna serve today with our lovely rice with a lovely potato. And I'm going to quickly just focus on my pumpkin because my silver side is almost done, and then I'm gonna do the lovely potato. Let's get the bread pudding its lovely side somewhere. Now I'm going to put that side. Let's cover that also with the other. We can again put a plate on the drive. That's lovely. So the side here, let's get some that, and now we're going to go over the potato here. I'm doing also steamed broccoli with the egg. A lovely warm steamed broccoli. Our passion photos are available. Say hi in the room if you have entered the room already. Our passion photos of the day are available. And our passion about paint already. For those of y'all that want to check what is our fashion opinion today, what are we wearing today, and what are we wearing, what's our very last cooking winter Sunday, what are we preparing, and how do we present fashion with what we are preparing today in the kitchen. So enough said about all the arguments. Everyone have a responsibility of making one of the previous programs. The New Zealand government have a responsibility to every household. The New Zealand government don't only decide to oppress one house, and they can clearly hear a lot that I post on my social media page. If they want to say that they don't listen into the house and that no one has reported everything that I've said already, then there's clearly a lot happening on my social media page. And I have clearly reported that these are present already. Not if you want to report it to the police or to anyone, but really New Zealand government is going to have to decide how do they manage international outlets that are not only in New Zealand, because people want to travel to New Zealand. I mentioned something very interesting yesterday in my house the other day. And I said, New Zealand, y'all that are listening in behind television, you know, there's a lot that the world has got for young people. We have been called to Auckland, New Zealand, not only because we want to stay in Auckland, New Zealand. Such a communication didn't go to Dorian Roden before I met him at Wostenburg lots of time ago. It is a universe communication. And like I explained to New Zealand already on all my social media pages, Dorian says, leave me out of what I'm saying, but he's right. No, but it's true. We are living in a world where there's processes. And New Zealand government have responsibility to the processes and officers of the world. And if New Zealand government don't understand the house in the country and why people have immigrated to New Zealand, and it becomes an office of the international world. And New Zealand government don't understand the language of American celebrity television programs. And the television programs exactly educate you where the office of the world are at. And the office of the world are not exactly everyone in the office building. The office of the world is every household and every process that derives from the household itself. And when you have to explain to a country like New Zealand already that this is where Ribea Elise's house is at. And if New Zealand don't understand the process, contact the Chinese government. Ask them what Rico China means in the biblical explanation of how households are provided for, where wars derived from, where these processes are at in our time and in our seasons. And then everyone can not get angry with what everyone is saying. But we all have a responsibility. And we cannot ignore the processes and the offices of the international world. When we want to live in ignorance, then the world lives in a way that they want to locate women to countries, and they want to oppress women, and they want to abuse women, and they want to isolate women in countries. If we live in ignorance, then the world lives with a crime rate that is so high that even the government say that they can't explain what drugs means in the international world of officers. They can't explain why people decide to build office around drugs. If we live in ignorance in the international world, then a lot of us sit in poverty, work until they are how many years old, didn't even pay a house or a car, don't only even earn a house or a car, or don't even only own a house or a car. And then the world is like that. So New Zealand government, those years that the government shouts to us for check, someone shouted in one of the recordings the other day. New Zealand government plays a lot of recordings from the television, behind television recordings. Live in a world when you shout for check, then you exactly know where for check comes from. When the country oppresses its people, and some people decide to just work their years out and their days out on this earth, then other people learn that there's a responsibility that we have to one another on this earth. And God believe the government can't be responsible, then how the hell are people in the country responsible? If the government are managing the process and the process is for check, then how the flip and how would the prisons be empty? How would the prisons not be full? You get in a world where no one pretends to understand what is happening in the international world. But yet everyone works under the office of what is happening. And no one can explain it as clearly as I'm explaining it to all of them. Everyone tends to work in the office. Everyone tends to work to build the world. I've mentioned in one of my fashion videos earlier. What is it that we are wombing in the international world? Because every journey that we take on this earth becomes another journey for someone else. What is it that our generation are wombing, are giving birth to? To ignorance, to woman abuse, to woman kidnappings in ways that are going to lead to this world too. We all have a responsibility. We cannot live in ignorance. What's this? Living in ignorance today means a world full of people that dies on a daily basis. I mentioned something earlier that I want to speak of today. And it is so interesting that we live in a world where every day becomes people that are ready to expect what they're going to receive the next day. It becomes that where you are at today sometimes explain where you're going to be at sometimes tomorrow. And nothing in this world is pretty, I said. Nothing in this world that we live in are so pretty. But we live in a world where people want to look at the prettiest of the day. New Zealand government don't want to listen to what the Ribea and Elise are saying because they want to look at the day as pretty as New Zealand seems for some people. But yet there has been so much kidnappings reported in New Zealand television during this year. So much kidnapping, so much woman killings that happened. And if we don't realize where we are at today, and if you are today in a war country, then not even the war country are sure of their tomorrow. Not even people in war are sure of how their tomorrow would look. Depending on where you find yourself today. If someone decides to walk to my day, and my day is in this house where I've already said a lot, then we live in a world that are very righteous and that are very fair. And if you decide that you rightly want to walk my way tomorrow, then in this day, The rightness of this world strikes you down wherever you are at. And I've seen it happen. I said earlier, I've got an international team of people that are defending everything about me. Not only because of my Mama Anna's room, they are monitoring everyone that wants to direct themselves my way. Everyone that has already heard everything that I explained and that still want to explain me underground. I have a team of international people that directly can make themselves men's way if they decided to want to oppress or abuse me. Not because of anything, not because of my mama's home, that I'm my universe, but because of the rightness of this world that we live in. If nothing that I've mentioned in any of the previous videos were not right, if nothing that I've explained in any part of my social media pages, if I've explained something and nothing about it was right, then we live in a world where nothing about it is righteous. But only because everything that I've said in a rightness. But really, there's a lot happening. But really, as human beings, we cannot live ignorant. On this earth, there's a lot happening. And on this earth, as human beings, we cannot live in ignorance. Even though we want to so many days. For some people, it would be fine to live in an ignorant way. And to live their life in ignorance. But where does a life in ignorance lead to? Where does it lead to? A life in ignorance leads to this world of human beings nowhere. Leads them nowhere. It leads only to destruction, yes. The Bible says to destruction it leads. Lovely potatoes, and I don't want to put anything on the potatoes because we're only going to enjoy it, and I don't want to eat a lot of salt. Only a drizzle, pinch of salt in there, that's a lot. Just saying, I'm not wrong. A drizzle of spiciness. Only a drizzle of potatoes. Lovely. And that's all I want to do with this lovely silver side with the potato, just that spicy that's in the sauce of the silver side. I only want to focus on flavors today with my sweet pumpkin. I love a silver side with mayo salad and with any type of salad, but I just wanted today to focus on the silver side with sweet pumpkin. Lovely sweet pumpkin. Most of our food are cooked. Where we are at with our concluding of our Sunday cooking, with all that we have said already, with everything happening in the international world, with Mama Anna Philander being my universe in the universe womb, with me having to explain so much to New Zealand, with New Zealand wanting to live in ignorance according to this house's processes, with the Chinese government living in ignorance according to having a responsibility to the Mama Anna Philander, Mama Universe womb on earth, with the American celebrities that have written all of the communication through. Every one of those countries are defending themselves in this case every day because it's not a case amongst humanity, but it is an obligation that the earth cannot be so oppressed and so much in poverty because the earth has got a womb, and the womb are according to every education of offers, according to every or education of what a palace house means in the international world. While King Charles them's palace are called a palace in the international world of information sharing, of where people get the information from, of every country's responsibility to the womb of humanity on earth, and not only to the womb of humanity, but to the completeness of every process in the universe that we as human beings have been introduced to. And that's where we are at with our leading this generation educations also. It is how responsible are we being human beings on this earth, right? And this earth has given us an advantage of information. How responsible are we with the information that we have learned over the years? Where are we at with those processes? And why are the earth yet so still in so much oppressions, yet still in so much wars, yet still in so much aggressions, yet still in so much woman abuse and killings that are happening, and the prisons are yet still so full, right? 5 points America said in one of the things that I mentioned earlier. And 5 points, that's the 5 points, right? It's oppressions, it's a lot of abuse happening, it's a lot of wars, it's a lot of poverty circumstances, it's woman abuse happening, it's prisons that are full, and it's a lot of things that we can do right as countries and that we have responsibility for. And if we don't know information, then information are available everywhere. Al Jazeera News sits every day and they sit in discussions and arguments because of all of these processes. And where I'm at with my AWOKH business, I'm sharing my opinion in accordance to my Mama Anna Philander, Mama Universe womb. We all have a responsibility to not ignore what it is that is happening and that we learn about that are happening on this earth. And that's where we are at with our Sunday cooking, with our Leading This Generation educations. HR 2024 business restructuring with me, Ribea, Elise. Discussions continue tomorrow, every Monday. Tune in and listen to all those educations and follow where we are at in our season of the Office of the International World. There are business restructuring, and there are every day we have a responsibility to us, the people. We have a responsibility ourselves. The office have a responsibility towards us, right? And that is it, everyone. And the office have a responsibility to acknowledge us, the people, right? And to not disregard where we are at in our seasons. And other than that, have an amazing cooking Sunday with me, Ribea. Let's go to the website for the recipes, awokh4.wordpress.com. Have an amazing season.